now is we're going to go over some questions that were asked from the people of Instagram. We put out a Q&A like, 4 days ago at this point, 4 or 5 days ago. And we didn't get too many real solid questions, but I picked five that I felt like, were the best out of the questions that were asked that we haven't touched on already. So let's get into that. So the first question that I thought was a great question. I forget who asked it. I'm not going to say who asked the questions because it doesn't really matter. Yeah, no names. But what made you gravitate your career towards fitness? And I want you to start, Darren, because I feel like I don't even know this answer for you, to be honest with you. So what made you direct your career down fitness or towards fitness?
Yeah, well, I mean, anyone that has known me for a while has known sports were super important going high school into college. I was trying really, really hard to play Division III basketball. That was what my mind was set on for so long. And just that form of brotherhood and competition was something that I held so important to me, so valuable. So moving into college, obviously, had a couple opportunities that weren't super set in stone. Gave it a shot, didn't really work out for me. Kind of destroyed me for a little bit. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because you kind of have your whole goal and mindset set towards that one thing that you want out of the next 4 years of your life. So when that didn't happen, it was kind of all right, well, what the fuck do I do now? So the next thing that I kind of turned to was, how can I find another form of competition? Doesn't have to be against other people. What about something that's competition within myself? And I think that's kind of where fitness came. It's always a challenge. It's something new. You go in there, you improve upon yourself. And the best thing that I like about it is that it's not a competition between other people, you and the next guy in there. And I think once I found that, it kind of lit a fire within me that was the next step for me. So getting into fitness was more derived from that athletic background. And now we just took it home and rode with it.
Yeah.
So what about you?
And that was a pretty answer. But I know the other answer that even though he doesn't want to admit it, this motherfucker has been shredded up since the age of 9. Okay, I swear to God, since the age of 9.
Thank you, Mom.
And
appreciate you. Genetic.
I mean, his whole family is, to be honest with you. I remember his little sister was 11 years old with freaking washboard abs out of nowhere. It was the craziest thing. But I remember he was always shredded up, and I always used to just wonder how the hell is that even possible at that age? Because no one else really looked like that we were hanging around with. And I think just having that kind of foundation of being just in good shape in general, you obviously built it on that.
Yeah.
For me, I grew up actually in love or really fond with or interested in bodybuilding. I think the 80s and 90s, even some 70s, with Schwarzenegger and all that stuff with bodybuilding was really what I got into, just the basics of fitness at first. It was never really I want to compete within myself. All of that bullshit. It was more or less, I was just so in love with the fact of these people changing their bodies to the most extreme measures and actually finding out how they did that and what goes into actually doing that. And my dad obviously was a big bodybuilder back in the day. And I always grew up with those Muscle Flex magazines, those crazy magazines and those VHS tapes where, you would see 90, 95, 96, 97, 98, Mr. Olympias. And that's really what got me infatuated with fitness. But I didn't know it was really the field of fitness. It was more or less just one avenue in it. And then as we got older, and of course, like you said, with sports, you need to progress or you need to train for your sport.
Yep.
You kind of go from one thing to another. And next thing you know, we're doing not bodybuilding lifts, but lifts to become better athletes. And then kind of learning the science of it at a younger age really got me hooked onto it, where it's oh, wow, this is actually something I enjoy. And that and I always hated doing things that I didn't like, and when it came to my career, I always thought at a young age, I never wanted to do something I didn't like, or something I don't actually enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And, obviously when it comes to training and fitness and all that whole umbrella, it's I just love just everything about it so much. Why not try to make a career out of it? And, that's kind of the way I went about it, at least. I know yours was more competition based, but mine was more or less just, I love what I do and I'm not going to do something I don't like to do. So why not pursue something like that? So
I think it was always too good to be true type thing as well. With fitness, I would always look at it there's no way this could be my job. Like
Yeah.
I like it too much.
Hmm.
I think I fell into this notion like earlier in my life that, not saying earlier in my life, like we're still young,
Yeah.
but I think I fell into this notion of like your job has to be something separate from what you really, really love to do.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had that idea in my head, but I think like you can agree with it too. Like
Yeah.
I think that we just have so much fun with it that it almost felt like too good to be true that you could actually turn this into something you do every day.
Yeah.
And now like you're on your way, you're still finishing school, but like I'm spending 60 hours in a gym every week.
Yep.
And as much as some people are like
60
shit,
hours.
that's
Oh my
like
God. Yeah.
that's terrible. That
Yeah.
sounds terrible. I love it. So
Yeah.
it's like
Hmm.
I say this every time someone says that sucks. I'm like, if I'm gonna spend 60 hours in a place every week, it's probably gonna be the gym.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of just how it came
100%.
about. I think for
100%.
both of us. So it's a
Definitely.
little bit.
Definitely. It's hard. It's like somebody who's like anything that somebody else loves, like people who spend 60 hours in a bakery and they're baking all day. It's like we couldn't relate to that, but in their eyes, that's what they love to do. They don't look at it like, oh, I have to work 60 hours in a bakery. They look at it as like, I enjoy doing what I do. No matter how long it takes me, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do it.
There you go.
So yeah, no, that's a great point.